Hey guys, we're going to be making a helloWorld app. For those that do not know, a helloWorld app is basically your first step in a certain language, in this case Swift 4. You may have seen other helloWorld apps, and if you have, you probably know it's really simple. We're going to change it up a bit and create something that's slightly more complicated and visually more appealing. So first up, this is what the app is going to look like. So when you open up, it's going to be a night sky with the moon. There'll be a button here saying wake up. You click the wake up button, the moon goes down, the sun comes back up, and the night sky changes to daytime, broad daylight. So this is what we're going to make, and before we start this, I just want to say, let me just quickly open up the files. So this is the files. You can download this in the video description below. And so I just want to say that this is the original picture. I just got this from the internet. I don't know who it belongs to. I've tried finding a name, I couldn't find one, so I hope it's not copyright or anything, and I hope this person doesn't sue my ass. But still, what I've done is I put it into Photoshop and created a few other images for you. So I've separated the mountain, and so initially it was the night sky, and I removed the moon and made the moon sun separately here, as you can see. And then from that, I've changed the night sky into something I'm going to call the half day. So the half day is basically when the moon goes down and the sun hasn't risen yet. That's what I'm going to call the half day. It's a much easier name to refer to. I tried finding a technical name for it, but I couldn't find anything. So then obviously when the sun comes back up, it needs to change it to the day sky. So that's basically all the artwork you're going to need, and it's going to be in the video description below. And like I said, I don't know who this person created the initial screen, but I couldn't really do anything to find what the name was. Anyway, so to start off, all you need to do is open Xcode. Just so Command spacebar and just type in Xcode and open it up. And once it loads up, what you want to do is click create a new Xcode project. So you're doing a single view application. Don't worry about what the other ones are. We're going to be covering them later on in the course. So just create single view application, click next. Choose a product name. So in our case, the product name is going to be called helloWorld. And this team is just your Apple developer certificate, which you should have downloaded when you got the Apple account. If you need any help with that, just let me know and I will cover it for you. So an organization name is basically yourself or the company you're working for, your company's name. It doesn't have to be a fully registered company, but just create a name that you like. An organization identifier is a your company name. That's basically how Apple uses it to identify what company you are. So they'll just type in com.nozone development in their system, and then it will come up with your company name and all the details about you. So this is what Apple used to identify your company in general. And then the bundle identifier is just whatever the company name was dot the name of the app. So this is what they use to identify the app itself. So the language obviously is going to be Swift. We will be covering some Objective-C in the future, but for this helloWorld app, we're only going to be using Swift. And just leave all of these unchecked. We're not going to be using any of these. So then just click next. And then it's going to ask you where you want to save it, and I just want to save it. Save in the documents actually. And then here where it says create Git repository on my Mac, just leave that unchecked. Obviously, this is another part of the course which I will be covering later on. So just click create. I'll make this full screen. Cool. So this is what your page is going to look like once you've created the project. So this is just the main screen where certain information about the project will come up. All you want to do, don't worry about anything here at all, just leave it as it is, but one thing. So when you go down to deployment information over here, under status bar style, just change hide status bar. This means when the app launches, the status bar will not be there. And obviously we want to look for a clean app. We don't want the status bar poking out anyway. So once you've done that, you want to move on to the main storyboard. So this is the storyboard. Let it load. A storyboard is essentially where you design the face of the app, and this is what the person sees. You can drag in multiple views which act as a different page of the app. Essentially, you design the app here. So looking here, we have a view, which is over here. This view is empty. So if we run the app now, it will take you to this view here, and on the app it will be blank screen because there's nothing here in this view. So we're going to have to do some tweaking here and there to make it look like the app we want to aim for. So what you want to do is go into this assets.exe assets folder. So in this folder, this is where your app looks for any artwork you require the app to have. So when coding, let's say you code and then you quote a name of a file, the app will then look in this folder here to make sure that you have the artwork you need in this folder. So if you don't have this, if you quote a name like saying maybe startup.png and it's not in this folder, the app will not be able to retrieve this image and it will not function. And it's going to give you an error, or when you run the app, the image is not going to appear and it's going to give you headaches. So always make sure you have everything you need in this folder. So in our case, we're just going to drag and drop all of our artwork. So obviously we don't need the original one, and we don't need the PSD file. The PSD file is basically the Photoshop file. So just select everything else and then click and drag into the assets folder. So you can see here they've all been dragged in. Don't worry about what the 1x, 2x and 3x mean. I'm going to cover that later on as well. For this video, I'm just going to be showing you how to make this app. Not really explaining what everything is, because this is just a Hello World app. It's meant to be really simple, really easy, and I don't want to overcomplicate things. So once you've done that, you can see that all of our images have been highlighted, and what this means is that now when we quote in our code, the app will be able to look in this folder and get the images we need. So now, going back into storyboard, so we call this the storyboard. No one really calls it the main storyboard, just call it storyboard. So going back to storyboard, on the right hand side you can see is what they call objects. So over here is what they call objects. So make the screen bigger. If you don't see it, on the top right hand corner there'll be 3 buttons. Just make sure the first one on the right is blue, so obviously this then brings this navigation bar. So if you go in here, this is what they call an object. So you can see there's loads of objects here. So if we just drag in maybe a label, and then this is called an object, this is a label, and then obviously we can change the text of the label what we want. So I don't want the label right now, so we actually want an image. So go down to filter and just type in image. Once you've done that, just drag and drop an image view. It's just as simple as that. There's obviously more to the side of the screen, but for now, obviously, again, the purpose of the tutorial is going to be showing you how to do everything later on in the course. So get the image and make it full screen. So to do that, just corner in one side and drag one of the corners to the other end of the screen. One thing to note is that I've designed the assets to run on iPhone 8 Plus. So what you want to do is click View As, then find the iPhone 8 Plus, which I believe is this device here. So you can see here that the screen has actually changed, and the label has changed to iPhone 8 Plus. So obviously there's another lecture that I'm going to be covering later on in the course, which will tell you how to make one universal app that will that will scale factor its images, so it's all nice and smooth when you run the same application on different phones. So just drag the corner to the end of this app. So once you've done that, you want to select the background. So all you have to do is just click this, go into the attributes inspector, under image view, click image, and then select base. So this is the mountains, and you can see here it's come quite nicely. Now drag another image view, same thing, all the way to the corner, all the way down again, and this time we're going to select the night sky, because obviously we want to start on the night sky. So now it looks a bit similar. Now all we're missing is the sun, so drag another image view, and this time click image and click moon, because we want, obviously it's nighttime moon. So you can see here that it looks disgusting, it's look very stretched and everything. So in order to fix this issue, all we have to do is go to this ruler over here. When you click it, it's going to ask you for a width and a height. Now I've already got preset values, so I've got some written down on paper here, and I would like you to use these values as well in order to get the same application on both ends of this on this video. So we want a width and a height of 53. So 53, you can see it changes in real time. So that's the height we want. Now if you look above that, there's X and Y coordinates, and this is basically where we want the moon to be in the location of the screen. So X coordinate 0 and Y coordinate 0 is up here, and X coordinate 102 and Y coordinate 190, which is over here. So we obviously want it over around here, and you can see that it changes the X and Y coordinate. So I actually want it to be X coordinate 181 and Y coordinate 220. So just change it to 220, and you can see the moon slightly shifts down below the cloud. And then what you want to do is grab a button. So obviously in the application I showed you, when we click the wake up button, it changes, it carries out an action. So just drag it down anywhere. You can actually take this button wherever you want, doesn't matter. I'm just going to keep it at the bottom of the screen. That tends to be the best place to keep small items like this. And now I'm going to call it wake up, a bunch of exclamation marks. If you double tap on it and go back into the attribute inspector, you can change the color of the text. So I want a white, so click on white, and then you can change the font, you can change the size. So I'm just going to keep it on font 17, and you can see here if you go into if the font is too high, and then you're going to get these 3 dots here. I think it's called eclipse, whatever it is. So just drag it and make it bigger, and then recenter it. Now once we click the wake up button, we want the wake up button to change to a text saying hello world. Now a button cannot physically change into a label, it's not possible in the code. So what we're going to have to do, we're going to have to drag in a label, but it's going to be a bit different in this case. We're going to have to position it right on top of the wake up button, call it hello world, exclamation mark again, and then actually, you know what, we'll just leave it on top of the wake up button, and obviously we want it white. We want it to be reflecting, contrasting against the background, so make it white. But this time, obviously, when we run the app, we don't want to see the hello world. So what you want to do is you want to click the label in the attribute inspector, scroll down till you find drawing, and under there you'll find an option called hidden. Just click, check it, and then you can see that it slightly loses opacity. And then what this means, when you run the app, you will not be able to see the hello world. So now what you want to do is open the attributes, not attribute inspector, assistant editor, which is this button over here. When you open it, it opens the relevant Swift file. So that's a Swift file is basically a file where you write the code that's directly linked to the view you're working with. So in this case, we were working with this view here, and that is linked with this code file here, which is called view controller. And you can also access the view controller by clicking here. So what you want to do is create some outlets. Now, an outlet is essentially a direct link to an object. So remember, an image like this is an object. So it's a direct link that the code can use when you're programming for this object. For example, I can be writing some code over here, and then I'll say moon, and then obviously when we create an outlet, we're going to call the outlet moon, and then the code knows that I need to apply this function or this kind of attributes to this object over here. So that's all it is. It's very simple. So just create some space straight underneath this curly brackets over here, and what you want to do is click Control and then the object, and just drag into the code, and then you can see here the connection is an outlet, and we're going to call it moon. Actually, don't call it moon, because obviously the moon is going to change in the sun, so let's call it astro. What am I doing here? Yeah, astro object. So you can see here, because we changed the name, it's no longer linked, which is why the grey circle. So if actually, I'm going to show you again, 1 second. So we want the night sky to change into the daytime, into day. So same thing, Control click, and then straight underneath. And then this time we're going to call it time of day. So you can see here we have a grey circle with a dot in the middle. That means it's linked to something in the file. The reason why this doesn't have it is because we called it moon originally, and then we changed the name of the moon to astro object, and now the code doesn't know something called astro object, so we need to relink it again. So just click the plus and move it to the moon. Cool. Once you've done that, we want the hello world as well, so Control click again over here, and we're going to call it hello world. And then same for the button, Control click, and then we're going to call the button wake up. Now obviously the button is it can be an outlet, but it also needs to be a function, so it needs to be an action. So when you click on it, some code needs to be done. So in order to do that, we create something called an action. So an action is essentially code that you write that will be carried out when when someone does something or presses a button, like this button over here. So in order to do this, just Control click again, but this time do not take it all the way up there. Instead, bring it here, just between this last curly bracket and this curly bracket over here. And then you can see here, change the connection type to an action, and then we're going to call this action wake up button. So you can see here that it creates another set of line code with 2 curly brackets. So within this line of code, empty lines of code, this is where we're going to write our own code. And when someone presses the button, this is where all the code in this space here will be run.